Greetings, everyone. My name is Jignasha, and I'm delighted to be hosting today's Awakin Talks. Welcome, and thank you for joining us. The purpose of these calls is to share stories that nurture our own inner transformation while planting seeds for a more compassionate world. Um, We do this by holding collective conversations with guest speakers who inspire us to live in a more service oriented way. And behind every call, there is an entire team of service based volunteers whose invisible work allows us to hold this kind of a space. And today, our special speakers are Hang Mai and Chau Duong. To begin our call, We'll begin with a minute of silence to anchor ourselves in the present moment, which will be, and then we'll move into a prayer. So we'll just begin with a moment of silence. Welcome back, everybody. Now I'd like to invite Tim, who's actually joining us from the other part of the world, from the East Coast, late in the night, and who's really been up to offer a song before we start the conversation. So Tim, if you can come and offer a song.
Thank you, Jignasha. So this is a little song inspired by the most loving farmers I know, Hong Chau Ragu. Living in a composted home with open doors, rooted at the heart of those forest floors, growing a jungle of love in nature's design we trust. Farming permaculture gives life full color. It's nature's cure, healing us and one another. Go deep into this rich soil. Smile with ease, no need to toil. Practicing indigenous wisdom. It's a beautiful, holistic vision for all of life in one harmony. All of us in a gift economy. Start the one straw revolution. A movement of human evolution. Trust your essence, Swadharma. Flow with this cycle of sacred karma. Service, simplicity, and surrender. Loving all, our hearts so tender. Sowing seeds of inner peace. It's changing me with humility. Bowing to the rivers and the trees. Becoming all we were meant to be. In nature's design, we belong and trust. Let's grow this jungle of love and love and love and love and love.
Thank you, Tim, for this beautiful song. Like in so many ways, you have just touched, our hearts by really connecting with the spirit with which Hang Mai and Chau, our guests today, live. Thank you so much. So welcome everybody again and to our fortnightly Awakin Talks, and today in conversation with Hang Mai and Chau. Now it is my pleasure to introduce our moderator, Ragu. Ragu is a very dear friend, and it is really hard to encapsulate him in a few words, but I'll try. um, uh, a long-time service-based volunteer, Ragu is actually more often tuned into how invisibly he could serve, and you will not even know, and he'd be serving you. And he lives on an organic farm in a village near Coimbatore, along with his, while he's on the farm, he's actually nurturing innumerable slow stories that are emerging around him wherever he is. So with that, like in a few minutes, Ragu will be engaging us in an initial dialogue with the speakers. And so just to take you through the call, by the top of the hour, we'll invite all of you to share questions and reflections. At any time, you can submit a question or a comment using our webcast form on the live stream page. And you can also email us at askask@servicespace.org. And just a friendly reminder that all of us are operating in a virtual space, and we are all in very rural locations, so there might be some issues with technology. So just be a little patient, and we'll try and be back in a few seconds. So with that, I invite Ragu to introduce our guest speakers today and take it over. Over to you, Ragu.
Thank you all for joining. My name is Ragu, and I'm really thrilled to be able to have a longer conversation with Hang Mai and Shah. In many different ways, I resonate with, vibe with, align with their lives, and I got to know about them through a post that Nipun had posted in Service-Based blog about his trip to Vietnam where he met them. And ever since I read the blog, I always wanted to have a chance to meet them. And then that wish was granted to me. Then both of them came to India a couple of years back to attend a retreat in Ahmedabad. And my wife Nisha used the opportunity to steal them for a week. So we routed their flight tickets in such a way that they ended up at our farm in Coimbatore in the south, and spent a week with us, engaging with a bunch of farmers in our region in the name of doing a permaculture course. So I got to know both of them more intimately in that period, and then I spent another 7-8 days with them in Ahmedabad. So I just want to do a very spontaneous introduction of them, the way I see them, instead of a very formal way of introducing. Um, so my understanding of both of them is that it takes a certain degree of clarity and certain degree of courage, in certain measure, to be able to make certain radical decisions in your life, like they have done. So Hang Mai used to be in the corporate world. She's Vietnamese, and but she's very fluent in French because she was working with a French sports retailer, going to different places outside Vietnam and helping the retailer in different ways. And in that period, she came in touch with a lot of local people in Vietnam, their troubles. And over a period, slowly she was able to see that the corporate world, even a well-run company, a well-meaning company, one way or the other has to give in the pressures of being a for-profit company and do things that are not totally aligned with values. And that kind of journey took her to, rural places, meeting with a lot of rural folks and hearing their stories. Certain change took over her. And in that journey, she ended up at a workshop that was being conducted by Chau. And that's where they met. And there was a lot of connection. And then they ended up getting married and moving to a farm and all that. On the other side, Chau had been working with a NGO. And through the NGO, he was practically living his life for 20 years, visiting a lot of tribal population in Vietnam, the indigenous people. So though he was working with an NGO, his day-to-day engagement and day-to-day living and interaction and work, all of them were in the context of literally living in the jungles. So that gave him a view which is very hard to acquire, even if you do a PhD, and even if you, like city folks, most of us don't get that kind of a view of life. And that obviously changed him inside out. And when both of them met, there was a commitment to shift from what they had been doing to try out a life experiment on their own, where they decided that they'll buy a small farm and then start building up their life ground up. Pretty much everything that's required for a couple to live. Growing your own food, building your own house, running your own retail shop, and indulging in a lot of local economy, and nurturing people around the community in multiple ways, including helping a lot of youth and newcomers to make a similar shift, which a lot of people want to do, have a lot of confusion and a lot of doubts and fear and all that. So by being the example for a lot of people, they were giving a lot of confidence to a lot of people to try life like this. So their life is a life of moving from so-called mainstream life into a homesteading life, a life closer to nature and following the rhythms of nature. And one of the primary guidance for them for doing this is what can be called as permaculture. So permaculture has been a way of living and working with nature for a long time. A person in Australia, Bill Mollison, and one of his colleagues, they started this way of looking at nature and relating with nature, and they called it permanent agriculture. And the short form is permaculture. And Chau has actually been trained with Bill Mollison in understanding and implementing permaculture, which is the knowledge he brought back to Vietnam and started doing a lot of workshops. And for last 6+ years, they have been living and working on their own farm, trying to live a very down-to-earth, sustainable life. So that would be sort of a very short nutshell of who they are and what they're trying to do. And I have heard a lot of amazing stories from them. I'm going to start off with a few questions of my own, and some questions shared within our circle to me. I'm going to ask them those questions also. Say a beautiful saying in Vietnamese, and all of us on this call, we can say that along with her after she says that.
Yeah.
And it'll be beautiful. In English, the meaning of the phrases. Maybe you can just say the English version first and then lead us in Vietnamese.
There's a proverbs in Vietnamese that we really like. In English, it means human being are Earth's flower. In Vietnamese, người ta là hoa của đất.
Yeah, in Vietnamese, two words at a time, and we can probably repeat after you.
Yeah. Người ta là hoa của đất.
Người ta là hoa
của đất.
Yeah.
Good.
Người ta là hoa của đất.
Yes. Yes, Ragu. That's correct.
Beings are flowers of earth.
Yeah.
That's just really beautiful. Representing all the diversity and fragrance and pollination. There's a lot of things about the flowers that match with our aspirations. So that's quite amazing. So I just wanted to start off with a question about you guys were telling us before the call that you're sitting on a mountain of rambutans.
Yes.
So that is a very amazing picture, just even picture somebody doing that. So tell us about rambutans and what's going on in your farm right now.
Okay. Wow. Yes, you see, we are more than 100 rambutans, and this is the main season of rambutans, and we every year it's a very busy time for us to harvest, and also we ate also a lot of rambutan instead of another food, and this year we try to make many different things from rambutans because of COVID, so we cannot just sell it to far away, and Hang try to make rambutan become like what we call is become kind of liquid, so we can use it instead of sugar.
Sweetener.
Yeah. Hang can also explain a little more about this, and we use rambutan to cook many different
dishes
also, make soup and to make kind of juice and
soup.
Yeah.
Yes.
And normally you have to use sugar, for example, or another sweet for that. So now we use rambutan for that. Yes. So that is actually we never tried it before because before that we just only way of eat rambutans is just the fresh one. But now we can do it in many different ways. and with different dishes also. So it's very good. And we also can keep it for long also without, using any kind of electricity, like a fridge or something like that. Yeah, by just boiling it and fermented them, and for example, yeah. And also, it's give us a lot of uh, chance also to share with our neighbors as a gift.
Yeah.
The one thing is, in our areas now, actually there are only 2 farms still have a rabutans.
Oh.
But yeah, so this become quite, let's say, special in the local areas here. So that also gives us good chance to make better relationships with our neighbors also, They can come and to gather rabutans, and we also can bring rabutans to give them as a gift. So during at least for 3 months now.
So following that, I just want to ask if we were to, fly a drone on top of your farm,
Yeah.
tell us what we would see. What is the extent of the farm, and in kind of a permaculture design, how does it look? What is there in which place, and just give us an overview of your farm.
Sure.
So how can I describe our farm now? Yeah, we located our farm located in the it's one of the what they call Bà Rịa Vũng Tàu province in the southern Vietnam. Cái gì vậy? Không hiểu.
Không, anh cứ nói đi.
Okay, and yeah, actually in the past, this area is already have been converted into rubber plantations. I think it's from since French period.
Colony, yeah.
So it means for a very, very long time already. So the landscape here really changed a lot from the, let's say, from the natural forest into rubber plantations, let's say for 100 years now. And our farm is located almost in the middle of rubber area. So, and also for about 30 years, the farmers before us, yeah, who planted rabutans, and the only for mono plantation, you can only rabutans only, and the way they farm is the same. Many other farmers in Vietnam, and also you can see another area in the world, it's really intensive mono plantations for about 20, 30 years now. So until we moved here in 2017, actually, and then we give a farm, let's say, actually not the give, we let the farm just regenerate again naturally. It means we let every trees and plants or whatever occur in our farm can grow, and we spend most of that time for learning and observing and learning what happened in our farm during last 3-4 years now. And it's really amazing. Even I travel many places in Vietnam where it's very nearby the forest. But I also can I be very surprised about how nature can regenerate, very fast and very quickly, and very diversity, different plants, and many other small animals also coming within only 4 years now. So it's really a kind of a jungle now. From only single plants is rambutan, but now it's like I can see that the one I know, I already make a list of 100 species already, and there are many others I haven't known, and still learning process in order to explore more what is this, and that is something very if you don't really stay in the farm, you cannot imagine that how it's amazing of nature, regenerated by nature. Yeah, I want to
Quite amazing. One of the questions people had asked amounts to, like, there is a perception that you're living a life of minimalism.
yes,
Trying to live a life of simplicity and minimalism and all that. But on the other side, what you are telling now sounds like not minimal at all. There's 100 species in your farm.
oh
And,
yeah,
Yes.
it sounds pretty rich to me in multiple ways. So this on one side, living in abundance. On the other side,
yeah.
there's a perception that you're living a minimal life. So how would you explain that?
Okay, you go ahead, Chau.
You see, yeah, it's true. Now we can also realize that we are living in very abundant gardens, and we have a lot of choices in our garden here in order to take and to use it or not to use it. And what we talk about is try to have a simple life. It maybe it really start from our background here. We used to live in the cities, so it's the more simpler in the way we use a lot of what let's say facilities or products from other. It's more like from the industrialized productions, for example. So that is maybe the way how we think since the beginning that we use less those things and try to adapt, to learn and to adapt and rely on our gardens. And we are right. It's true that our farm getting richer and richer and more abundant. And the more we stay in our farms, the more we know about other things we can use it. It's not only for our food, for our medicine, for our like a building house, like building materials, and making a roof, or many others. And even we have a lot of things to share with our neighbors. The problem is our neighbors now, they don't have many kind of trees or fruits anymore because they only focus on mono. Yeah? That makes us become really rich now in terms of actually very abundant, and we have a lot of things to share. It's not about the thing from the gardens, but also now it's about the knowledge now, because we know these trees. We know that this can use for what kind of, let's say, disease, for example. And we can keep them, make them as a tea, and they can share with them. Only this morning, there are few people come, our neighbors come here to get a rambutan also, and they bring their children come and they just play around and pick up a rambutan, for example. So yeah, we feel very, very rich to live in it.
I can add something. I like your questions about abundance and minimalism. In fact, is related to what Mahatma Gandhi said. The world has enough for everyone's need, but not enough for one man's greed. So if we see the universe or from the zoom in, zoom out in our farm, so there's a limit. So if you don't minimize your need, then you will take all of others. But if you minimize, then you leave space for others. Then since we come back and live in the farm, we see the abundance every day, every hours. Yeah. And we think to live a happy life, there are two access. One is to minimize your space, your parts, and then you return maximum to others. So the first thing that you leave space for others sentient being. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to add one point here. As we mentioned about, we try to move to the sun direction, you know. So actually, if we move to that, because all of our products in our farm here is a product of biomass, we can get, it's a really free energy from the sun. So it's free. It is free for everyone. It's not only for us, and it's very abundant also. It's a, if we change the way how we go, yeah. And
you should explain a bit about what you mean the sun and others. You mean the nature? Yeah.
It's all about the renewable energies. But of course, you know, we try to have a minimize or simple life in terms of using less non-renewable resources. So that it's very much about the way how we try to practice now in our farm garden.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the sun being the primary source of energy that fuels your life, which is always there and renewable, as opposed to all kinds of other types of energy that requires, you know, a lot of different investments and industry and whatnot. So,
yeah. And we should do it quick now, before they commercialize it.
Yeah, before they commercialize the sun.
Yeah.
This kind of leads me to, you know, Hang Mai, to ask you. You know, one of the questions I have, somebody had asked to ask you is, how can we create meaningful change in complex interconnected systems? So now, I remember during the course that both of you were doing in my farm, this term, interconnectedness, when that came up, you shared something pretty deep and profound, which is that normally when we talk about interconnectedness, we talk about, you know, on one side there's human beings, on the other side there's nature, on the other side there's all the systems created by human beings. So we talk about the connectedness of all these different categories as if they're all of equal importance. You know, generally people tend to draw, you know, these pie chart kind of circles. They talk about triple bottom line. They say, you know, economy and ecology and community, things like that, right? And you said something about how the way we look at interconnectedness is actually very flawed compared with what actually reality is. So yes, reality is interconnected, but you have a different picture of what that interconnection is. And I remember you sharing that in our course. So could you share some of that?
Yeah, I work in CSR, corporate social responsibility. I think up to now is more than 20 years because in parallel with my entrepreneurs, I still do some freelance on CSR. So in CSR, we were made to believe that economy, society, and ecology are equally important. Like 3 cookies take out from one box. But one man named Tobias Stocker, he changed my mind. When he arranged those 3 circles in a different ways. So you have ecologies at the base, and upper you have society, and on top you have economy. So like 3 layers birthday cake. So it means that if the ecology base is ruined, damaged, then there's no more humanity, and of course no more economy. So our focus is only in the wrong place. We focus on economy, it means that we focus on the cherry on the cake, but not on the cake itself. You see, so if the ecology is not there, as human beings are not there, and of course money is not there, because we are the only species on earth need money to survive. We think we need money to survive. Now with the COVID, it proved differently. But if we see it or not.
So, I mean, that is something, you know, it's nice to hear that and feels good about it, but I'm sure a lot of people listening here would themselves or wonder how practical that could be. You know, somebody says, alludes to that maybe we don't need money, or at least as much as we think we do. How could that possibly work in this globalized, economized, industrialized world? So how does it actually work for you? You know, what's your relationship with money, and you know, do you earn enough, and what do you do to earn, or is it not required for you to earn? You know, what's the economy of living the kind of life you're living?
Yeah, well, many people think that because we are rich enough, and that's why now we afford to live minimalism. Yeah, but actually, we have many friends who are not rich, and they still choose this lifestyle. Because once you choose this lifestyle, you lighten your burden for yourself. You know, you have more time to live than to earn a living. But we don't deny money. For example, if every month we need $100, and if we have only $50, then it is hard, you know. But if we need $100 and we already have a 200, then we decide we don't earn more. Then we spend time for other things that important to us. And about the questions, how others can shift their life, I think it's all about their inner core. And minimalism requires some kinds of courage, because you have to step out of your comfort zone. Consumerism created something that we call comfort zone. That's why many people are staying inside and hard to step out. So for us, the last 4 years since we live in the farm, it was a learning process. And the more we learn, the more we trust that there's only enough for everyone. if we know what is enough and we know how to adapt to nature instead of making nature satisfy all you want but not you need.
But I think also we used to live in the way everything we have to use money. So that we think if without money we cannot, or very difficult to live, and very hard to live in the gardens. From my own experience here, our own experience, since we moved to live in our farms, and we have learned that there are a lot of activities and a lot of things
Skill
used to be use money to do that, but now we can do it in different ways without involve money in this or very less money in this. For example, we have a lot of activities. For example, like people can come and help to build a house, to do a lot of work in our farm, for example, like exchange labors.
rotation.
So it's very much a rotation among our communities here. So of course, I also go there to work with them, and maybe then in return they can come and help us. And by working together, for me, I learned many other skills which I didn't know before that. Before I moved to live in a farms, so that it's not only they come and help us to do things, but also it's about learning process. So I gain more knowledge and skills, but also we can do work without using money on in the farms. So it's really help us to less depend on money, or another way is to less use money in daily life. And for example, now in our farm, since we come here, we start to rebuild again the way how people give things sharing together. For example, we have this time of year, we have rambutan. We can give rambutans to people. We have bananas. We give bananas for them. And then in return, if they have another thing, they also give it to us. So we don't use money in this. Yeah. So that is also, it's fulfill a lot of needs in our daily life, And another added value here is to make stronger community relationships. It's not only just neighbor as we are next to us. It's about people who can help us, and again in many other activities in daily life. Yeah. And we see that it is one of the way, instead of trying to earn more like a financial capitals, we also can do it by increase more social and also knowledge and skill, especially skills capitals. So that is important for people. I mean, it's not only live in the farms. In many other cases also.
No, when you say this, I'm reminded of the story of how you guys ended up building the houses you live in.
Yeah.
And that seems to kind of bring to life what you just shared of, multiple forms of capital and not having to use money. All these things are kind of brought to life in how your houses came to be.
So Hang Mai and Chau they've just come back, and
Hey,
it's
yes,
amazing.
they're back.
They are back, and it's awesome. This is how nature works, and it is so amazing that we've got glimpses of it on this call. um, so it's beautiful, and I don't know how did you come back, because electricity burst there was a burst on your farm, and you managed to come back. It's awesome. Thank you so much. uh, you know uh, while you were gone, we had a look at your farm, and Ragu was sharing about how on his farm, when they started off, they started off with the resource of money. And when you started off your farm, you lived there. You were kind of being there with the farm, just being there in nature, and kind of tuned in, and slowly and gradually gave shape to what was emerging, or kind of just were in surrender to that. And I think so. And he said, because of that, the way your farm looks, the nature of your farm and the nature of his farm are different. And so in that context, I think I also wanted to ask this question, that Fukuoka talks about this that farming is actually about purification of the human spirit. And how do you kind of relate with that? And if you'd like to share some stories around that.
Yeah.
And
And you,
clear.
yeah. Can you hear us?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you, Hang.
Okay. Yeah. That's a bit slow. There are something that I would like to share. First is about the inner gardens and the outer gardens. That in fact, for Fukuoka, Fukuoka is like a Zen. He's not in the spirit of the levels of then for him farming is.
Hang, maybe you can turn off your video, so that might allow for enough bandwidth so that we can listen to you clearly.
Yeah. Hang on. He doing farming for him is a means to cultivate himself. It is not, as he said, that ultimate goals of the. At first, when you read that, it's something, sounds deep but complicated. But the more when we practice, we see that it's true. What outside gardens. And I relate to what Ragu say, that when we start the farm and to see the emergence. Fukuoka talk about doing nothing. And Lao Tzu also talk about doing nothing. And most of the time that we heard the questions from the new practitioner, that how can you do nothing in a farm? And we come to understand that when we talk about doing nothing, it doesn't mean that you do nothing. It's more about being stand still to realize all the invisible forces around. For example, our neighbors come. He has a rambutan farm next to our farm. And he maintains the chemicals intensive farming. He water it a lot. They water the rambutan farm just like we water the rice field. It means a lot of water and chemicals. And one day he came to our farm. Our rambutan give fruits before his farm. And he say, how come that you even don't water them and they still give fruits? And that make us understand more about doing nothing. Doing nothing doesn't mean doing nothing. It is a process of learning. You observing, you aware of invisible forces around you. Like the rambutans, it still blossom, it still give fruits. Without, we have to do something directly. We don't have to fertilize them. We don't have to water them. But all the other invisible forces were doing that. We don't have to do. So, because we know very little, you know, most of people think that being a farmer is an easy job. And if we can find jobs in a city and something that you have a better social class than people in the countryside. But the more we stay in the farm, we are aware that farming requires a lot of wisdom. Farming also requires a lot of contentment. Because if you bring the greed to the farm and you want the farm to satisfy all your greed, it's not possible. If you need that much money when you are living in the city and you go back to the farm cannot supply you with that much money. But it supply you with many other things, abundance of food, abundance of material that you need for your life, but not that much money. You know, so being a farmer is that you have to work a lot with your inner farm, with your inner gardens. The three poison that Buddhism talk about, like ignorance, greed, and anger, then you have to work a lot with your inner garden in order to be a good farmer. You should replace the ignorance with the wisdom, by the wisdom. You replace the greed by the contentment, that you're happy with what you have, what you found around you. And you replace the anger with the serenity. So only when that you work very well on your inner garden, then you will be happy with your outer gardens. But it takes a process. It doesn't come right away, immediately. It takes some time. It really takes some time. And again, I would like to repeat, doing nothing doesn't mean doing nothing. Doing nothing means stand still, learning, observing, and aware of invisible forces around you. Even a small flowers in your gardens, behind that, a friend of mine say, it's the huge force of the universe. You just don't see that. You just see the flower blossom. You don't see the invisible force. Just like when you are watching on the YouTube with this Awakin call, you see Ragu, you see Zignashore, you see Chau and I. But the invisible force behind that is huge. How many volunteers and many others? You know, that is one example, but the same for the farm. So farming requires a lot of wisdom, contentment, and serenity. And you don't achieve it right away, but you will achieve that on the way practicing farming. That's what we learn and what we earn too.
Hang, that is really beautiful. I think what I gathered from what you just shared was that it requires a certain slowing down. It requires a certain it requires for us for that wisdom to emerge. And so I think you know, if you can, it would be really nice if you can share a story, you know, a personal story or a personal experience where you know, you have allowed for that to happen.
The story, Joe has 20 years working with minority ethnic people, and he learned a lot from them. He learned permaculture too. But last time when we came to Ragu's and Isha farm, we prefer the term permaculture. Prema means love in your language, right? And we love the principle of permaculture, but however, for us, the names, it means permanence. And because we come from the East, we believe in impermanence. So there's nothing permanent anyway. And then Joe said that everything in permaculture that he learned from the minority ethnic people too. It's just like they don't document it, they don't give it a name, they just live in it, and they share it for free. Permaculture cost you have to pay very expensive, yeah. So just like water come from the well, you call it well water. Water come from the spring, you call it spring water. Water come from the lake, you call it lake water. Yeah, the water with the brand, like whatever brand that you have, a brand water, that you just remember the brand of drinking water, but you don't see other form of water body. So when we first come to the farm, I was the one who was more impatient than Joe, because I was born in the city, I grew in the cities, and only at my 42 years old, I go to the farm and live in the farm. And at first, I want Joe to do this and to do that, I want the flower here, I want vegetables there, I want this and that. It's more kind of a comfortable farm. And he just say that you can do that. It is you can require it to the farm, because after 20-30 years of chemical intensive farming, you cannot ask all that kind of thing from the farm. Now we just let them, like a cures, give them some time to get healthier, and we receive what the farm can give us. Yeah, now we nurture the farm like someone who's sick, and don't ask anything from the farm. Yes, and I realize that that's true, because if we go back and we want to earn our living from a farm, it's not possible, because basically we don't have a farming experience. Even the farmers around us, they are struggling in earn their living with the farm. How come that we come from the city and we think that we can earn a living from a farm? We can have a lot of things, but not much money. We can have some, but it's not enough compared to our need for money for the first years. And step by step, we reduce our money need by improving our skill. For a very long time, I didn't cook, because when I went to university and when I worked for a corporate, I didn't have time to cook at all. But once we live in the farm, 3 meals a day, and I become a homemaker. Really, one day I find myself in the kitchens and 3 cooks a day. And Joe, he didn't know anything about the handiwork before. He didn't know how to build a house. Yes, even cutting the grass, he didn't have to do before, because he has a team who will do that, So we learn all that at our 40s. We learn all that at our 40s. And we, day by day, we realize that the amount of money that we need is in reverse proportion to the skill we have. The more skill we have, the less money we need, because we can do it by our own hand. Yeah, so that's what we learn. And we learn how to cook from what the farm can provide us, instead of buying or forcing the farm to give us some food that we know from the city. Because actually from the city, you know, your list of food is very poor. You have about 10 to 20 kind of vegetables per year. But once in the farm, they give us 80 others, but they are know the 20 that we know from the city, and we think that, oh, there's no food at all in this farm. But in fact, there are 80. But because of our poor database, we just know 20 and we want that 20. And then we have to change ourselves, we adapt, we learn how to eat and how to use those 80 species to nurture ourselves, to feed ourselves, instead of forcing the soil to grow other 20, which is not able to, because they are all very intensive, kind of things. Yeah. Well, the questions of gave you about edible, there's a lot. Yeah. One day we come out in the farm in this monsoon, we can easily find out 30 species that are edible. I mean the greens.
Wow, Hang, that's awesome. I remember I was last monsoon, I was in a tribal belt in India, and the four kind of greens that I've always known in the city were the things that I thought, okay, maybe there are, another couple of 15 that I don't know. But when I spent that monsoon there, I figured that there are around 350 to 400 varieties of greens which they consumed during the monsoons, and they were like living like totally like in connection with the forest.
Yeah.
And so it's beautiful when you share this experience, and it just so there is a very different kind of abundance that you tune into when you're living on the farm.
Yeah.
And you kind of it's also what I feel is it's also kind of a freshness that you are experiencing every day, and there is certain
Yes.
kind of newness that you're experiencing every day. So in the cities, while everybody is constantly looking for something new to keep the mind busy, here the mind is quiet, and there is always something new or fresh that appears, and you get to experience it in every moment.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that's really that's actually very nourishing. I think so. One thing which I feel which I'm wondering is that right now you have this land, we have these fields, but for people who are like city folks right now, and they are not bad, they are people who are planted there for whatever reasons. How do they cultivate this mindset? Because when we're talking about purification of the human spirit, in a city space where they are actually in some ways disconnected from nature, what are your insights or learnings from the farm which they can take into their lives, and kind of use that as a way to kind of polish or kind of heal the human spirit in that sense?
Yeah. Anh có trả lời không? Với người ở thành phố thì không làm.
Cái đấy phải rõ mình hay làm đấy.
Your question is about how for the people in the city when they don't have a farm, how can they connect better to the natures and heal their spirits? That was your question, right?
So back to the nature, some people might have that option, some people may not have that option, right? So if you if you're living in a metropolis, you may or may not have that option. The best option of actually seeing nature would be going out in your balcony and probably looking at the sun or looking at the moon.
Yep.
You know, that would be the thing. You might not even see a small weed growing around. So in a situation like that, you know, what do you think? What are the learnings that you can offer city folks, which they can, or practices, you know, in that sense, which you found meaningful? Even it could be a small thing.
Yep.
Yeah, also thanks to the last trip to India, especially when we visited Ragu and then attended an G3 in India. We were inspired a lot by the way how people there, I mean, our friends they are doing, and also inspired other people. Since then, we come back here. We, Hang and I, we decided to actually do more. It means to organize more different activities. For example, we try to organize every month one sharing in the city, in Ho Chi Minh City, just for people who are staying in maybe farming or the way how they can live in more simple Ho Chi Minh City with people there. So what we also believe that even people don't have a farm, but what we often call the inside garden, actually
the inner garden. Yes.
The inner gardens. If you can make it very beautiful inner garden, it's already very beautiful already. You see, you already can change the way how you behavior and also the way you act or the food you eat. Of course, if you have a garden, then the garden actually, the physical garden is just like reflect
your
own inner garden actually. So even we can see a lot of our like intensive agriculture, the way how farmers behavior with their farm, exactly the way how they behavior with their themselves,
with their own body,
with their own bodies.
And
it's
spirits.
very clear to our farmers neighbor. Yes, the way how he treats himself with all of Western, what they call Western medicine, and try to fix everything quick. He cannot keep patient for maybe 2 or 3 days. After do with yes. So that's the reason why that's the reason. Then we try to organize every month one sharing in Ho Chi Minh City. Of course, now this COVID we cannot do that, but we hope. And other activities we try to do is especially in dry season in Vietnam here. We travel to the mostly to the what we call Central Highland. More about we own the young people there about how we farms, about whatever our experiences with young people there. So we do it quite often there.
Not the city, ma.
So no, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
so continue. What about this? The city people, what we can do, and first it's as Joe said about the inner gardens, and inner garden. That's the one thing. And the city, when we talk about the city, we talk about the consumption. Consumption. Saw that hard due to the COVID, they cannot own their living anymore with the lockdown. And it is what you can do when you live in the city is many small things that you can do. Is the first that you're really aware about your consumption. There are many kinds of consumption that's really destructive, and there are some kinds of consumption which is less destructive. So you can choose that. You buy something, you need it, or just because you want it. So reduce the consumption is the first thing that you can do for yourself and for the nature in general. And in terms of food, because you eat 3 times a day, and that is the way that you relate it with nature through your food. So if you know about where does it come from and how was it grown, is one small step to understand. And one more thing you can do, that's don't waste food. And I believe that once you know where does it come from and how was it grown, if you choose the healthy one, you won't be able to waste it anymore. So that's for the small thing. Yeah.
Wow, that's actually really the farmer's wisdom coming through, very simple, very small things, but can bring very big changes in our lives. Thank you. Thank you for sharing very simple wisdom tips, for people like us who are actually in the cities and, being very mindful of small things. And I think just a simple thing like a little, just one rice can share the story of, how it came to our plate. And there would be like so many people, so much of labor involved in that one rice coming into our plate.
Yeah. Invisible force behind.
Yes, the invisible universal force behind it, behind the flower blooming and behind that rice coming into our plate. That's really nice. I think we can take one more question before we close the call. I think one question would be, what do you think? How do you in today's time, right? What and especially, I think in Vietnam, the policies, the way the government is, it's a pretty it's an interesting environment out there. What do you like? How do you kind of when you speak a lot about from permaculture, to permaculture, and when there are so many opposing forces, and we are seeing that across the world, not only in Vietnam, but we are seeing that across the world, that there are these very difficult conditions which are there. And in that, how do we practice permaculture? I think you shared a little bit about the small practices, but when you have big giants out there, so in that, what do you do and how do you navigate through that?
From my point, whatever we do, like a Fukuoka say, there's no value in whatever we do. We don't create anything. And but we take a lot. We take a lot. when we were discussing with Ragu, one of the team that we would like to talk about this during this webinar is about making home. Then I think that we don't have that sense of home, you know, for many things. For a family, for communities, and for this earth in the level. Living in a farm and with the neighbors teach us you know, in order to be self-reliant in 5 years. Now there are many things that we still need to buy from outside, but many other things that we don't need to buy from the market, but we can come to our neighbors. Many things that we don't have, but our neighbors have. And we just come and we give them what we have, and then they will give us what they have. So self-reliant at the communities is much easier than self-reliant at a family. And if you see bigger, self-reliant at the countries will be easier than just one region and so on. But step by step, we need to move the self-reliance in a very with the current situation, in order to satisfy our needs and our greed in the same time, we consume a lot of energy. For example, we are sitting in Vietnam, but we want to eat imported food from Europe or from the US. And that consumes a lot of energy. So the point is, if we consider everything like our home, we're making a home, we will try to take care of the home, you know. Then I don't think that we have, many of us have that sense of home. And because we don't take care of the common wealth, the common richness, then we always have the fear of scarcity, of missing. So now in this time of the COVID in Ho Chi Minh City, because the city was locked down for 2 weeks, that even the food delivery is forbidden, it's not allowed. Then even in the city where the food is not abundant, but people learn how to share what they have, and the poorest still receive food from someone who is wealthier than them to share with them. So I mean, city is not the ideal place to live in, because it consumes a lot, but they still can share if they put it in a common wealth. Yeah. So to deal with this situation, we are living in the farm. We don't have much problem, but we wish that many other friends who have an intention, who have a piece of land, and if you cares about, you know, the safety and the happiness of your own, come back as soon as possible. Because when we come back, we need some time to learn and to adapt and to live in the natures. It doesn't come like that. We were disconnected with the nature for a very long time, and we also need time to learn how to come back, to find a way back. So, did I answer to your questions?
Yes, yes, you did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a sense of home. I mean, imagining I think one thing that that always warms my heart is that when I go to the villages, and especially unknown villages, my experience has been that I have never come back with an empty stomach, even if I've not known anyone over there. Till date, like I have traveled across many villages in India, and my experience has been that I've always been welcomed with open doors, open hearts, and whatever little is there, I have always been offered. And I think uh, what you shared, it's really beautiful that, you know, how do we open up in that sense, you know, that sense of home and, you know, the larger home, and and the sense of kind of entitlement dissolves in that sense. So really beautiful. So I think, you know, Hang, before and Chau, before we end the call, one thing that we always ask and we'd like to ask you is that how can we as service space serve? Like, how can we be of service to you? If there is anything that we could do, please share with us.
I discussed with Joe that what can we do for Saigon or Ho Chi Minh City, because I was nurtured. I was living there for 24 years, I think, 24 years. And what can we do for the city now? In the situations of lockdowns and many poor people suffering. And Joe told me that, you know, maybe the best thing we can do is we continue what we are doing. That to support people in their journeys to return to the village. Because actually, the city didn't people. The city, it's just like you know, like the lake. And when you see water in the lake, arrive. It's not where water come from. The yes, you can see it in that way. But you can see also that we are like the resources that the city draw from. So if we move out of the city, is also one of the act of kindness for the city. That's our discussion this morning. Because of the density of the population. And also for the COVID, you know, when we grow plant, when we grow trees, if we grow monocultures, then you will see the disease spread out. When the same kind of species are too close to each other, and then the disease and many other things will spread out in that farms. Yeah. So we just have the same reflection for people. In where there are the very dense densities of human being. So instead of the biomass, now we have too many human mass. So from the eyes of a virus, yeah, is that the same from a disease for a monoculture plantation? Yeah, it's, you know, so that kind of thing. And yeah, and we think that we continue to do what we are doing. We continue to live in the farm, and we support people who want to return to the village. Yeah, and as Joe say that, just like all the highland, their functions, the highland is not there to produce food for the lowland. The highland there is to protect the lowland. and to like the water, like their own thing.
Yeah.
So which means that we continue our work, and you continue your work is your best service to us, because we feel that the the feeling of belonging. And we feel
I guess your voice is breaking a little bit, Hang. Yeah, Hang, are you there?
Yeah, I'm done. Thank you.
Okay, sorry. All right, Hang. So that's amazing. And so with that, before we close the call, Hang, can you sing a song for us? The song that you sang for us earlier, you know, about I'm the cloud, I'm free.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
one from Plum Village.
Yes.
Yeah. You know that song too.
Okay.
No, then let me see if I remember. I am a cloud, right? I am a sunshine. I am a bird spreading out its wing. Yes. I am a flower. I am the sunshine. I am the earth. I am. Oh, dear brother, oh, dear sister, let's walk together, my Fundi. Yeah, thank you. I love this song.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hang. Thank you for this awesome, beautiful song and this amazing call. There were so many nuggets, so many gems, not nuggets, but gems that you shared, and each one of it is actually a practice of lifetime. And thank you for living it. Thank you for being an example of it, because I think what you shared is not you know, what we are taking back is what you're living. And I think that's what I have personally felt, you know, from this call and having this conversation with you. So thank you very much for being there with us.